Welcome to As the Story Grows. I'm Brian Patton. Today we welcome August Burns Red guitarist JB Brubaker to the podcast. ABR's new record, Death Below, is out today on SharpTone Records. JB talks about how the band got connected with Solid State, trying to establish themselves outside of the Christian market, releasing Guardians during the pandemic, writing Death Below, and more. Before we dive into this week's episode, I want to share some recent comments. Over on Discord, Patreon member Ben Pike wrote about the interview with Andrew Schwab that aired Wednesday. This interview has absolutely changed my perception of Andrew, and yes, revisiting Truthless Heroes, it's a solid record. Ben got to listen to that interview early as a Patreon member. You can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. You can also join us on Discord and leave your comment. Over on YouTube, in response to the No Wings to Speak Of episode that aired in January, Jerry Rigged Wrenching wrote, I stumbled across No Wings to Speak Of in 2002, right after I started driving at the Hot Topic in the Annapolis Mall when they used to have that little listening station. Between that EP and seeing Under Oath playing at shows at the Knights of Columbus earlier that year at a Cobra Clutch show, it really changed the course of me and my best friend's life. Who knows, I probably saw your old band or maybe played with you guys. Also, when I graduated in 2004, I wanted to go to either Sheffield or Omega. I ended up getting a job instead. That's the way she goes, I guess. I went to a bunch of Cobra Clutch shows and they were amazing. And I would say I was definitely in the same room with Jerry at some point. And as mentioned in that episode, I went to Omega for recording. It's a super small world sometimes. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed today's chat with JB from August Burns Red. You guys have an off day today?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, we're in Eugene, Oregon.
Oh, that's rad. How's tour been?
It's been great, dude. We are on a 20-year anniversary tour, and which is wild in itself.
Yeah.
And the shows have been awesome. Most of the shows are sold out, and the package is great. Bleed From Within, Devil Wears Prada have been great to tour with. Good hangs. Yeah. Great shows. Great vibes all around. It's been awesome.
That's rad, man. Let's go back in time. Lancaster, Pennsylvania. It's where you grew up.
Yep.
What was growing up like?
Growing up was cool. I had a good childhood. I have 4 older sisters. I lived out in the country, and it was chill. Like, I got to run around outside a lot and play in the woods behind the house. There's a little creek. I had my best friend in elementary school, probably in like grade 5, moved next door just down the street, which was cool. So I had like a playmate because, I had 4 sisters, but I was stoked to have that guy to play with.
Yeah.
And I was the youngest of the 5 of us too. So some of my older sisters, they didn't want to play like football in the backyard with me.
Yeah.
That kind of thing. So, and I didn't have a real interest in music until I was in high school, or maybe I'd say in junior high, I started to get into music. But I was really into sports, and that was like my passion through elementary school and then into high school. But I made that shift. I like fully poured myself into music starting in high school, and I still played sports, but that's when I started going to shows a lot and just opening up those gates of the whole counterculture of the underground music scene of punk and hardcore and stuff, and the floodgates opened when I started college and was able to be on my own all the time. And we started doing ABR my freshman year of college, and I was putting on shows and promoting shows, and we were just trying to figure things out. That the good old days. Sorry, I kind of like rapid fired from my childhood to the start of the band.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, people probably don't naturally think of Lancaster as being like a hub for music, but it's like, was it Chameleon Club out there? Like, it was like, there's a lot happening out there.
Yeah, we had a great music scene for not being a major market or anything. You know, the Chameleon got a lot of tours. Bands stopped there regularly, and there was like a cool, like smaller hardcore scene that was really tight knit when ABR was coming up, and a lot of shows going on at like local American Legion halls and VFW halls, fire halls, all those kind of shows that were, you know, we'd get the national tours through the Chameleon, but then there was lots of regional stuff and local bands and stuff always playing the local halls, and those shows were just as fun for us.
That's rad. That's rad. What was it? Was it just the local scene there? Was there like a band or an album that like hooked you, where you were like, "Oh, I want to do this"?
I don't think there was a single band or album. I mean, there were really important albums that helped me cross the bridge from punk into hardcore, and then open the doors for metal, which is, you know, ultimately where August Burns Red found our niche, I guess. There was a local band called Boy Wonder that was a local metalcore band that we loved and really looked up to. They were like our heroes, the heroes of the local scene. So we looked up to them a lot and got to play some shows with them, which was like one of the early goals of the band, was to play a show with Boy Wonder. And we actually became friends with some of them, and never toured with them or anything, but they were a cool local band that got to do some touring and stuff. Well respected in Lancaster.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw them live. They opened for Zao in Gettysburg, and it was
that's wild.
Really fucking rad.
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
Yeah,
I'm stoked to hear that. I didn't know if you would be familiar with that band or not.
Yeah. I grew up just outside DC, so we would go up to Gettysburg for shows, and
I see
PA, and you know.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
small world.
Yeah. What made you? What drew you to guitar?
It seemed doable, I guess. I had some buds who were in a local band, high school friends who started a band, and I would sit in on their practices. They were like an indie rock band that was called Here to Eternity. That just was a local band. But you know, some of my best friends and I would sit there and watch them practice, and they'd have guitars sitting around. And then I'd pick them up and just kind of like, I didn't know what I was doing, but you know, someone taught me how to play a power chord, and things went from there. I eventually bought a guitar for myself when I graduated high school in 2002. And that's when I started, you know, taking more of an interest in trying to learn how to actually play it.
Yeah, I graduated in 2002 as well. So
nice.
Same age. There we go.
Yeah, I like that.
You mentioned ABR got started in college. How'd the band get going?
Yeah, I was in college. I went to a school called Elizabethtown College that was 15 minutes from where I grew up. It was very close. So I went home on weekends a lot, and Brent and our drummer Matt were still finishing up school. Matt was 2 years behind myself, and Brent was 1 year behind. So they were still in high school when we started playing around. I shouldn't say playing shows, but when we just started like jamming in Matt's parents' barn. He lived on a farm. And I guess our singer at the time was also in high school. He was a year behind me as well. We all went to the same high school though. And our bass player was part of the same homeschool group that our drummer Matt was. So we were all from Mannheim, Pennsylvania, which is the same town. And we just were like, let's start a band. Let's start playing together. And we wrote a couple songs, I guess. Actually, we started out covering a few things. We covered a Poison the Well song, and I'm trying to think what else. An Evergreen Terrace cover of a Depeche Mode song from their album Burned Alive by Time.
Yeah.
and we covered a song by that band Ludacris, who went on to become Norma Jean. It was basically Norma Jean before they changed their name. So that was like those are the first 3 songs we ever did. And then we started like dabbling with our own original material, and things went from there.
Was there a progression for you guys musically, trying to figure out what you wanted to do to get to this like technical metalcore or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah, for sure. Because when we started out, we sucked. We were all very new at our instruments and we couldn't play much. And all we cared about was playing breakdowns and being like a heavy, like we were listening to bands like Bury Your Dead and On Broken Wings and like really heavy beatdown hardcore kind of stuff. And we were always a little bit more like on the metal side, but we weren't good players, so we couldn't play anything particularly technical. And then as we got a little bit better at our instruments, it just opened up a much broader range of what we were able to do. And while we still have always been extremely reliant on playing breakdown, that's always been like a cornerstone of our sound. There's just a lot of other elements that worked their way into our music as we became better players.
Yeah. What led you guys to Solid State?
That's an easy one. They were like the only real label interested. And we liked Solid State. Jordan, our bass player, and Matt were, raised in Christian homes, and they were really into Solid State as a label because they were allowed to listen to the bands on that label. So that was like, if they could have picked any label to sign to, they would have picked Solid State in the first place. So that was like a dream come true. Like we got really lucky with that. And our whole signing to Solid State thing was a bit of a, like it was very lucky how it happened. We had put a couple of songs on that website, hxcmp3.com. And I set up a loop in the Winamp app when I was in college that just played our 2 songs on that website constantly. And it just got our plays up because there weren't a lot of people playing stuff on there, but they had daily charts. Yeah. And by doing this, I was able to get August Burns Red a ton of plays. And that caught the eye of the gentleman, Jonathan Dunn, who signed us at Solid State, because we were like charting high. It looked like we were getting good, like a little bit of buzz on this, this indie MP3 website. So if we hadn't done that, I don't think he would have ever noticed us, or we wouldn't have been on his radar in the first place.
That's funny. You just drew numbers.
Right. Like I like cheated to get us signed.
That's so funny. What was that transition like for you guys? I know Josh wasn't your first singer, but like on Solid State, having Josh leave and then having Jake come in.
Yeah, that was a scary time. I was just talking about this the other day. Thrill Seeker came out in November of 2005, and we were on a tour with Bury Your Dead and Terror. It was the first full US tour we had ever done. And Josh didn't like being on the road. It was pretty apparent quickly that he wasn't cut out for touring. It was just hard on him. And he quit shortly after that tour. It came as a surprise. He held it together on the road, but he sat us down in early January of 2006 and was like, look, guys, I just can't do this. It's not for me. And we kind of freaked out. Of course, we were scared. We didn't know what to do, but we never made an announcement. We never publicized that we were changing singers. And we did a tour with a fill-in guy from our hometown named Andy High. For one tour, we did like 19 shows with Sinai Beach, basically down through the Southwest and the West Coast. And we got home and Jake came up and tried out just on a random MySpace message with our other guitar player, Brent. And he sounded great. He was available. We had a lot of touring lined up, and we were like, cool, yeah, let's try you out. Come on the road with us. Let's see how it goes. And he toured pretty heavily with us. I mean, we were touring all the time. We took every tour we could get. We were on the road a lot for like the first half of 2006. And we did a show at Cornerstone Festival out in Illinois that summer, and it went really well. It was like almost like a coming out for ABR. As far as, I mean, that was like a Christian festival, and we were garnering some attention in that world because of our ties to Solid State. Yeah. So we had a great show out there. And we were like, cool. All right, Jake, you're in the band. Like that's when we like cemented him as being our singer.
That's cool. Was there like,
So what I was going to say is basically most of the people who saw us never saw us play with Josh McManus anyways, because we only did that one tour and the album had just come out. So basically, Jake toured the entire Thrill Seeker cycle as our singer. So most people didn't know any better that we had changed singers.
Yeah. I think I'd seen the video for Suburbia, and then whatever the first single was off the next record, being like, that singer looks different, and then be like, oh, it's a different guy.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's probably what a lot of people did. They're like, what the hell happened here? I didn't know this was a different vocalist.
Yeah.
But it's screaming. You know, we were a young band and we weren't popular yet, and it was an easy transition to make quietly.
Yeah.
Especially because social media wasn't a thing yet.
Yeah.
Like word didn't spread like wildfire back in 2005, 2006.
Right. You do a show with the new vocalist now, and everybody has it on TikTok or YouTube.
Yeah,
and they're like,
exactly.
Who the fuck is this guy?
You can't hide anything anymore.
When you guys left Solid State, I mean, you guys have done a bunch of stuff with Solid State and Solid State Band since then. You guys left in 2013, right around the time that they stopped working with EMI, Capital Christian, or whatever it was. Was that kind of what led to that split? Just they were going independent, or was it just contract was up and you guys wanted to try something new? And
it was contract was up and we wanted to try something new.
Yeah.
We had built a nice following, and Solid State was great and they did so much for us, but we wanted a shot at something bigger with a better reach and a little bit more label infrastructure. And Fearless was a great home for us, and Fearless did a lot for us. We really loved our team for the first couple records we did with them. Things got weird at Fearless in the later years because the label was independent when we signed, and then they got bought out by Concord, which wasn't necessarily a big deal, but things ran a lot more corporate. Yeah. It wasn't indie anymore. There were a lot of people to answer to. It wasn't just, it just became more convoluted. And I don't know if you know much about Concord Music Group, but they're a major label that owns tons of labels underneath this umbrella. Yeah. And just things moved a lot more slowly, and there was a lot more hoops after that.
Yeah. It's got to be tough because like you're a metal band, and so like you have a reach and an audience, but there's a ceiling there without like breaking what you do and being a different band, right? Like, absolutely, yeah. There's certainly this. You can manipulate your metal band to be have a higher ceiling. We've seen it from a bunch of peers. I mean, look at what like Parkway and Architects and Bring Me the Horizon have done, with their careers by simplifying what they were doing or just making it more accessible. So there's certainly a high ceiling within metal, but within the metal that we play, it's a little bit the expectations are a little bit more tamed. Yeah. As you're celebrating 20 years as a band, in the writing process, have you ever it's kind of one of those damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like every time you release a record, people are like, well, it sounds like August Burns Red. But if you didn't sound like August Burns Red, people would be like, oh, fuck them, they changed their sound. Like, dude, that is the catch-22 of it now, isn't it? The most common complaint we say is, most common complaint we hear now when we release music is, oh, this sounds like August Burns Red. And then the most common compliment we hear is, thank you guys for staying true to your sound and not changing and being so consistent. Like, we love you. Thank you for doing that. Every other band is
changing the sound, and then, oh, but they didn't evolve enough. I'm frustrated. I'm bored with this now. Like,
Right.
hey, you won't please anyone or everyone. And I've learned to take comments and feedback with a grain of salt. And at the end of the day, if we are proud of what we've done, then great. And if people want to stop listening to our new albums because they're tired of us sounding quote unquote the same, fair enough. I mean, we have 8 full lengths before the latest one that you can listen to if you like those, you know?
Yeah. Has it been tough, like leaving Solid State, trying to break free from any of the baggage that comes with being on a label that has had Christian ties in the past?
I think it did take a while to kind of shake that label. We've had to speak about it in interviews a bunch, and there was I don't know exactly when we made that turning point as a band, but we've basically accepted that there are Christians in the band and there are non-Christians in the band. Our foundation is not to spread the word of God. Our foundation is to write sick metal songs and entertain. And we're all in agreement with that now. Like there was some growing pains with that as people's beliefs and views evolved as we grew up together. But we're all on the same page now, and we're all very respectful of everyone's different views. But it did take some time, especially I think overseas, like in the UK and in Europe. It was, I'd say, especially in the UK, people like that Christian label was like a stain over there. The media didn't want to cover the band. And media is like everything in the UK. We never got much media attention in the UK, and we'd see peers of ours just explode there and play massive shows and get the cover of this and that. And we never were one of those bands there. I mean, we'd play there and do fine, but it was, you know, we'd go play for 800 people in London while our friends were playing for 2,500 or 5,000 or whatever. And I think it's because of, well, no, I don't want to say it's only because of our Christian label and not getting media attention, but that definitely held us back early on. And it's kind of been this grind and this claw to shake that, I guess, and have people, and to get the respect of just being a band that's been doing it for a while and kind of carved out our little corner of the metal world.
Yeah. It's like weird to see that whole scene evolve where it was like, you know, Zayo in their heyday, like people be like, yeah, they sound cool, but fuck them because they're Christians. And then like you have the Under Oath crest and like Christcore, and it was like it was popular to be a Christian metalcore band, and now it's just like, who cares a little bit now, right?
It really was popular. There was like it was a fad to be that, and it had its like you said, it had its rise and fall.
Yeah,
it's funny. How things trend.
You guys released Guardians April 3rd, 2020. Terrible time to put an album out.
No kidding.
Yeah. What was, I mean, how'd you guys respond to that? Because, I mean, things were shut down by the time that album comes out. Like, was it just like, well, this is the plan and it just kind of sucks?
Yeah, well, we didn't know what to do. So we saw some bands delaying their releases and stuff, and we had this awesome tour with Killswitch lined up that we were going to put the album out on. The shows were selling great, and then the world came to a screeching halt. And our thought process was, this is a really hard time for everyone. A lot of our fans have been looking forward to this record. Let's give them the album when we said we were going to, and give people something to look forward to and enjoy while they're stuck in lockdown.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of how it's going to affect the sales and how we're going to be able to promote it without touring and all that jazz. We just decided it was best to put it out when we did. And I think that was something that was really appreciated by our fan base, even if it did limit the reach of the album because we weren't on the road promoting it, or people weren't able to go out and buy stuff the way they might have normally. But I guess, people aren't going out to Best Buy and buying CDs anymore anyways.
Right.
So in that regard, it probably wasn't that big of a deal. I'm happy with the way we did it, though. We didn't get to tour the album the way we wanted, the way we would have liked to have, but we still got to do, I don't know if we did any straight up like Guardians tours, because now that we're a band as old as we are and with as many records as we have, there's so much like anniversary and celebratory stuff we want to do.
Yeah.
That people are, I think, more drawn to than new album tours. Like they'd rather see us do a Constellations album play than focus on our new record sprinkled with other material, from the discography. I get that feeling because there's bands that I love that have been around for ages. I always reference the band Death Cab for Cutie, who I think are one of the most consistent bands, in music, and I love their entire catalog. But I'd rather go see them play Transatlanticism in its entirety than do an album tour that's featured for their latest record with other stuff sprinkled in. I get that feeling as a fan. So I know it. We try to do what we think is going to be the most entertaining for the fan base. Yeah.
Guardians was definitely my favorite ABR record to that point. So
that's amazing.
That was my top 10 that year. So yeah, cool. Yeah, I loved it. I think it's killer. So
thanks, man. I like it too. I do like it. It's not my favorite album we ever put out, but I do like it, and I'm glad that I'm glad we got to play some of it live. Even if it wasn't getting the attention a normal album would have gotten under normal circumstances.
Yeah. What led you guys to SharpTone?
SharpTone was really, they just came in really strong, and we had a lot of kind of silly demands at this point in our career of what we wanted from a label, because we had, I don't want to sound boastful, but we had kind of our pick of whoever. There was a lot of labels who wanted to sign us, and we kind of narrowed it down to a handful that were willing to meet some of the more outlandish demands that we wanted for how we were going to operate. And we also liked their roster, and we really liked the people, the team. We had similar visions of what we wanted for the band. So that's how we arrived. I mean, they were really cool about giving us what we wanted, and we got along. Having a good rapport with your team at a label is really important. Being able to communicate clearly and liking each other is very important. And we felt that vibe with them.
Death Below, out March 24th. Where'd the title come from?
There's a line in the last song on the album, the track's called Reckoning, that references the album title, Death Below. I'm personally not going to get into the meaning behind it, as it's not my lyric to speak on. Our drummer, Matt Greiner, wrote it and would be able to better explain it. But it sounds darker and a little bit more aggressive and metal than some of the previous albums we put out, and I think that is a good representation of the sound on the record. It's just it was written during a dark time, and it just came out a little bit darker and bleaker than August Burns Red typically has sounded.
Yeah. I really dig the artwork. Who did the cover for you?
The cover was done by, this is a hard name for me to say, I'm gonna have to look it up. He's a gentleman from Greece, and he lives in the UK now. His name is Andriy Ryababachev. I it's a hard name for me to say, but he does really awesome stuff, and he's like he works in a bunch of different mediums and works in film a lot. And we just kind of stumbled upon his Instagram page, and I hit him up and asked him if he was willing to design for us. And he's like, dude, no, I don't have time. And I'm like, okay, well, can we buy something you've already done? Like, we love like this piece that is on your website. And he was willing to work with us in that capacity. And, you know, that's kind of how it came to be. We just discovered him on Instagram and went from there.
You mentioned the album's darker tones. Like, listening to it today, it's definitely got some heavy themes, like, but there's also some like BT Bam vibes, like, for sure. A little more progressive than I think the band's been previously. Were there things you were wanting to do on this record that you hadn't done, or because you had maybe more time to sit and write that you approached it differently?
Well, the process originally started out with Dustin and I wanting to write an EP because we were in between labels, and we thought it'd be cool to write an EP that flowed one song to the next and self-release it, since we were between labels. And we started it in 2020 when everything was grounded because of the pandemic. And the first 6 songs on the record are the first 6 songs that Dustin and I wrote that have like a nice flow track to track. But as we brought that together, we were really excited about the material, and we're like, you know, it probably makes sense given what's going on to just save this stuff and turn it into a full length. So over the next year or so, we kept chipping away at it and writing more songs. And it, you know, eventually turned into what we have now with Death Below.
You guys have been on this 20th anniversary tour. What have you guys been doing to occupy your time?
We've been busy, man.
Yeah.
There's, with the album coming out, we've been doing a lot of press stuff, and we do meet and greets every day that take a little while. We're thankful because they've been busy. Like our fans are coming out to the meet and greet before the show. And we're self-managed, so there's always something to be done.
Yeah.
There's just to keep the business moving forward. There's a lot of things to think about at all times. So we've been busy working hard, but the shows have been super fun. There's just like a really good vibe in the room every night. People are packing the places out. It's been honestly the best headline tour we've ever done in our career. So we're feeling really grateful, and just the response has been really encouraging. Our fans are rallying around us right now, which feels awesome. Good.
That's cool. Well, you're on this 20th anniversary tour. What are your plans after the record comes out and the rest of this year? You got more touring, or?
Yeah, we're going to do more touring. The record comes out March 24th. It's going to be coming out between the 2 legs of this tour. So starting on April 14th, we picked this tour back up for another month. We're basically hitting almost everywhere that we haven't gone already, and doing some Eastern Canada dates at the end. And then we're going to take the summer off, which is weird for us because we are almost always busy in the summer. But just given how long this 20-year anniversary tour is, it's going to be a welcome change to our typical approach to a touring cycle. And then we have stuff planned in the fall, none of which has been announced yet, but we'll be doing some shows in the fall, some international stuff. And then we are going to be doing our annual Christmas Burns Red Festival, which is December 8th and 9th. It's not announced yet, but I don't mind that being out there.
Yeah.
So that'll be kind of how we wind down our year.
That's cool. Was there, I don't know if it's a normal thing. I know this past year you had it like the solid state night and then like the night with Era. Was that like an intentional thing? Do you think you'd like different fans for each night, or?
The solid state idea just kind of came to be because we still are pretty close with the label and we like a lot of bands on that label. And we asked them if they wanted to like partner with us and do a solid state sort of thing. The idea kind of went back to our days of playing Cornerstone back in the day. There were Solid State Tooth and Nail had Tooth and Nail Day.
Yeah,
it was the day before the main event started, and it was cool. Only those bands played, and they had their own stage, and there wasn't much else going on. So that's kind of where the idea came from, and it was fun to put that bill together. I mean, Solid State has a lot of history with us, and we have toured with so many of the bands over the years, being so closely knit with the label. And I think the return of that band becoming the Archetype was they were the first band we booked for the fest, and it's cool to get a band to play that hasn't been doing much for a while. Like, I know that maybe a lot of our newer audience maybe didn't know who that band was, but I think for our fans who've been with us for a long time, that was a cool little treat for them. Yeah, for folks coming out to that show.
Yeah, it was cool, and their record was really great that they put out last year.
Yeah, take off 10 years and just get right back to it. Good for them.
Yeah. Because you guys have been a band for so long, have you guys ever talked about or thought about like slowing down, or is it just like you still love doing this and you're going to keep doing it as long as you can?
I think that we have slowed down, to be honest, just with how much touring we do. We're trying to kind of like, we have families and there's kids in the mix and stuff now. Yeah. So we need to make sure that it makes sense for our families, for us to be on the road when we're on the road. And for instance, this 20-year anniversary tour, which is 46 shows, normally we would have just banged that out all at once over like 7 or 8 weeks. But now we're breaking it up into 2 legs, so it's not so cumbersome, both for ourselves and for our loved ones back home. So, and taking off the whole summer, like that's something we normally wouldn't have done. We're trying to do just do things smart, and we still want to play and we still love it, but we don't want to be on the road for 6 months a year at this point.
Thanks for listening to As the Story Grows. Our intro music was written and composed by Jeremy Hunt. The As the Story Grows theme is by Bob Nana. If you like what you hear, subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and give us a rating and review. If you'd like to support the show financially, you can join us at patreon.com/asthestorygrows. Be a part of our community and join the ongoing conversation over on Discord. If you enjoy this episode, share it on social media with your friends. Much appreciated, and thanks for listening.
I never felt so young and alive as when I'm diving into